Laois with two changes from the side that started the Leinster final loss to Dublin. Finbar Crowley and Niall Donohoe dropped to the bench, with Brian Glynn and the evergreen Ross Munnelly coming in. Goalkeeper Graham Brodie has shaken off an ankle injury to start. The Kingstons Donny and Paul, along with Evan O'Carroll, with key roles to play in that forward unit. After that last gasp loss to Fermanagh, Monaghan have cruised through the qualifiers to this point. 4 changes from the last out win in Carrick-on-Shannon, including the late inclusions of Drew Wiley, Vinnie Corey and Shane Carey. Jack McCarron also returns to a dangerous inside forward line. 5th championship game of the year for each of these two, but their first meeting in the championship since 2012. Laois won a round 2 qualifier in Portlaoise, but they're on the back foot early here. McManus, drifty on the inside, squeezes a pass through for Fintan Kelly, who maintains his record of scoring in every championship game this year. Carey showing well once more, and again McManus is the target. Timmins there with him, strong shoulder challenge. McManus continues on, and you expect no less, but when he produces time and again, you still have to marvel at the skill of Conor McManus. Ball beaten away by Carl O'Connell. And it's McManus. McCarthy gets his head up. Carl O'Connell has continued on outside of the right boot. Fantastic score. Continues this great start for Monaghan. Long ball in. Conor McCarthy the target this time. Vying for possession with Damien O'Connor. McCarthy manages to hold on. Support there from Duffy. Inside is Niall Kearns. Huge addition for Malachy O'Rourke to the Monaghan panel this year, and he's kicked a fine score. Vinnie Corey out to Colin Walsh. It has been a rampant Monaghan performance so far. Here's Ryan McAnespie. Walsh has continued on in support, as has Vinnie Corey. Shane Carey with his hand up, demanding it, and he has kicked his 3rd point of the half. 9 points to 2 now. 7 championship games for Monaghan last year, ultimately losing that All-Ireland quarter-final to Dublin by 10 points. Loss to Fermanagh this year was a bit of a shock to the system, as was that loss to Longford a couple of years ago, but they've rebounded and recovered, and Carl O'Connell has kicked over another. A game that has got away from them fairly quickly in this first half. Laois, they need their leaders to step up now. Here's one of them, Tony Kingston, angle ball forward towards Evan O'Carroll. 24 minutes gone, Laois still to score from play. They might remedy that here. O'Carroll, might be a goal chance. Needs to settle for the point. Lovely ball, he's forward again. Duffy on the move once more. Here's McManus. And once again, Garrett Dillon doing his best to stay touch tight. McManus. And Monaghan straight down the other end to respond, as elegant as it was accurate from the 2-time All-Star. McCarron, that cultured left boot of his just overcooks that one though, and Timmins can bring it free under pressure from Duffy. Timmins needing some support now, finds it inside from O'Loughlin. Evan O'Carroll, good ball inside, Paul Kingston. Plenty of Monaghan defenders back there still with Kingston. Lovely turn onto his right foot and a goal for Laois. And what a timely one, right on the call of half-time. 7-point Monaghan lead at half-time. And Laois with plenty of work to do in this second half. Here's Darren Hughes. Jack McCarron, held up by Mark Timmins. Looking for support, finds it in McManus. He's away from Garrett Dillon, his man marker, who loses his footing. McManus, can he take advantage of that on his right foot? Eases it over the bar. Colin Begley, now to the half-time arrival, Benny Carl. Tony Kingston on his inside. Support runners on his right-hand side. Kingston goes on. Evan O'Carroll in that inside forward line. He's the target. Ryan Wiley has lost his footing. A chance here for Evan O'Carroll. Kearns gets back goal side. 3 on the bounce though for Laois. Are they back in it? Nice ball forward. Lovely weight on that for Darren Hughes. McAnespie and Carey there in support. Hughes. McAnespie going forward. Brilliant save from Brodie. McKenna following up. Point for Monaghan. Could easily have been a goal. Darren Hughes. Pass evades McCarthy. McManus on it again. That one won't carry. Brodie underneath it. And Willie set off once again. He's looking to. Swallowed up by a combination of Carey and McCarthy. And it's McCarthy who will take his points. Risky game from Brodie. Well, who would have dreamed amongst the Laois supporters when 10 points down in Wexford that they would get to within 1 game of the Super 8s. Still not dead here, but they need some scores and they need them quickly. And Evan O'Carroll, the Sigerson star with UCD, provides one. Monaghan to come again. Ease down the line for McAnespie. Tight to this sideline. Oh, he's done well to spin away from Trevor Collins. Tightening angle, Darren Strong coming across McAnespie. Very, very tidy score. Here comes Desi Moan. McManus there in support. He's away from Dillon. Oh, Moan has continued on his run, bearing down on goal. McManus will get it back again. Another excellent save from Graham Brodie, keeping them in it. Kieran Hughes coming out to meet this, ships a heavy challenge. The ball breaks kindly. Carl O'Connell a chance to put it beyond all doubt here. O'Connell! Oh, it's another great save from Brodie. Clipped down, and on the end line it's Finbar Crowley. Has a look up. Kieran Lillis amongst those inside. It might be a case of goals needed for Laois now, as the minutes are ticking away. Less than 10 to go, and Donny Kingston gets his first from play. Could they set up a grandstand finish? Here's Colin Begley. No real pressure on him. 5 minutes plus stoppage time to go. It's down to a 4-point game. And it's got a little uncomfortable for Monaghan in this second half from such a strong position at half-time. But into stoppage time now. It looks like they might finally be over the line if they can tack on another score, certainly. And McAnespie, from an almost identical angle to his first point, has found a second. Well, a brave second half showing from Laois, but in truth the horse had bolted. Monaghan outstanding in the first half. That laid the foundations for the win today. A victory that secures the final spot in the inaugural Super 8.
We were lucky in many ways, no disrespect on any teams. We were lucky to play Division 4 teams, and even though Laois were maybe a wee bit step up, I want to choose my words carefully, on the two teams we'd played before this, we still would have been expected to beat them, and we did that. So we're now going in against First Division teams, and it's going to be a real step up first. But no, we're looking forward. That's where everyone wants to be. We're no different, and we know that our level of performance has to go up as well.
I think Laois GA has moved on a little bit. Laois footballers have an energy to them now and a hunger to play football that's refreshing to see in them guys. And just with regard to one or two people who kind of didn't recognise to any great degree this team throughout the year, or almost scoffed at us before certain of the last two big games that we've had, I don't think that does any team any good, and I don't think it's a sign of good research or good inside knowledge or good knowledge of what's trying to go on. So this team were labelled 12 out of 12 going to this weekend. I'm not sure we're 12 out of 12 that was left.
OK, well, let's get reflections on the game now. And Kieran, Monaghan, they beat Tyrone. Everyone says they're going to be really strong this year. Then they lose to Fermanagh, a huge shock. They've played Division 14, so they're in the Super 8s. Are they contenders still?
Yeah, absolutely, Des. They're back where they wanted to be. They're in the Super 8s. I think you've got to put Monaghan's form in context. They'd one blip against Fermanagh. They took their eye off the ball. They'd done the same against Down last year. Probably their weakness is that they sometimes against the underdog they lack concentration and they tune out. But in general their performance have been very, very consistent. Brilliant league campaign, very solid defensively, beat the Dubs, beat Tyrone. After the Tyrone game we would have had them as contenders, and I see no other reason why not now. They're back in the Super 8s today. They turned up, they were very clinical in the first half, Des. They got their matchups right. They cut off Laois's long ball supply, they dominated midfield, they kicked scores from play, supported by a great goalkeeper, and that gave them the platform. Yes, they fell asleep possibly in the second half for a 10 or 15 minute patch, and Laois kind of came back at them, but they were the much better side. They have a lot of quality, Des, right throughout the team, and they are in a position in the Super 8s where they will fancy their chances. They're going into that saying we can be in the top two, no doubt about it.
And one of their big assets is their ability to score from distance, Ross.
Yeah, I mean, Kieran said it there, they were clinical in that first half. I think they took their eye off the ball possibly in the second half, Des. But in that first half, I mean, they had 18 shots, they had 14 scores, 2 short and 2 wide. 2 wide in a half of football was brilliant. The first ball in here to Conor McManus, they weren't afraid. I think they varied their play in terms of scoring as well. They kicked long ball in, they kicked short ball, they ran it, they came off the loop, they came off the shoulders, they were tight, they were aggressive. I think Laois sat off them, Des, and I think they didn't track runners. Carl O'Connell here, for example, kicks an unbelievable kick with the outside of his boot. Kicked actually 2 of them during the first half. But I think if you saw there, Laois had 3 or 4 players back, whereas they weren't tracking the runners from deep. I think we have Niall Kearns here, who's had a great season, I think, and one of the new players that Monaghan have had an excellent game. Here we have Carl O'Connell kicking his 2nd score. I think the game was over at half-time. I think they'll be disappointed with the way they played in the second half. This is an absolute peach again from McManus, the best kicker of the ball, I think, in the country, over the bar.
So they're a threat all the way through based on this.
They are. I mean, you know, and I suppose the problem I would have with this Beggan, this is unbelievable. Clears the whole midfield, straight into his hand. He kicked 2 scores, Beggan. He created 3 with this. We have McCarron coming off the shoulder here and throws it over. I'd question the Laois defence, to be quite honest with you, Des. I think they toughened up in the second half better, but I think the damage was done in the first half, and I think Monaghan were out the gap. It was, I mean, you're going in at half-time, 14 points up to 1-4, double scores. You know, I know Laois had a better second half. I don't think Monaghan will be happy with the second half, and that'll be a question mark that they'll have to answer in next weekend again.
Okay, praise for Monaghan's attack. What about their defence, Kieran?
Well, defensively, I thought they were solid, and it gave them the platform. They did dominate midfield, but we knew Laois had been playing an attractive kicking game, and you can see here, long ball goes in. What a take here by Drew Wiley. You want your full-back come out, and he was the man marker in there, whether it was Evan O'Carroll or Donny Kingston. He was the guy in there that done the job. Here we've Carl O'Connell, who dropped back into that pocket at times, and you see the effectiveness of he's there. He gets a half block in. It was either himself, Vinnie Curry, or Darren Hughes that got back into that space in front of that full back line, and they interchanged at times. Here we have a great tackle from Darren Hughes, takes up the position in front of goal and comes out, times his tackle to perfection and down the field. So they allow themselves to commit bodies forward, just covering that area in the edge of the square. Second half, they probably got a little bit more conservative in trying to close out the game, and Laois may have caused them bits of trouble at times, but here we can see there are plenty of bodies back. They know Laois are looking to get probably quick early ball in, and the ball goes in. Who's the man that's tracking back? And people will say he shouldn't be in that position. It's Conor McManus, but that's the leader. That's the type of guy he is. So I thought overall, Des, that's what gave them the platform. They nullified the game that Laois wanted to play. I would say, you know, John Sugar, you know, seemed his grievances afterwards in terms of Laois's performance this year. We've been very positive about Laois. I think he's done a fantastic job in bonding them. Laois were a mess for years, and he's brought them back together. They've played a nice style of football. They've won Division 4. Their target should be Division 2. There's a lot for them to be positive about this year.
What you picked out their goalkeeper again. I know you've been a fan of what they've achieved as well. It sounds like now you're making an excuse because he gave out to you.
No, he wasn't giving out to me, Des. No, I think Graham Brody has been outstanding this season. I mean, today he was absolutely, only for him, Monaghan would have been out the gap at half-time. 6 saves throughout the whole game. Here we have Ryan McInnesby. You can see him here. We highlight him here after. They have a poor kick out, to be fair. Nobody tracks him back. Brian Glynn just looks over his shoulder and leaves him glance past him. He gets the ball in over the shoulder eventually when nobody has him tracked. But I mean, Graham Brody threw himself at balls all day. I mean, 6 times where he actually stopped clear-cut goals that other times would have been taken. He was absolutely brilliant, and against the Dubs he was brilliant as well. He brings something else, and he's a charismatic figure in terms of he comes out of the goal. He plays the extra man when they actually need an extra man to bring it out of the defence. He's brave, he's courageous. You know, I think without him, you know, that's an unbelievable.
Is he the goalkeeper of the championship so far?
He is so far.
Without
no
a shadow of doubt.
Yeah.
This is the third time.
And his kick-outs are sharp enough as well.
Yeah, what he brought to out the field as well. He is their leader at the back, but the shot stopping today was just top class, straight out, smothering. And Monaghan, 2 or 3 of them go in. It's a different dynamic. But
you'd probably be looking at Monaghan and saying, "Oh, there's 6 shots. You know, you need to be taking them." But you put it down to the brilliance of Graham Brody inside and goal. To be fair.
Okay.